As a wealth and wellness coach, people in their everyday lives love to talk about this aspect of self-care. That is one of the first things that I hear from my clients is how can I apply self-care and mindfulness when it comes to my relationship with money? And so I figured that since this will be both a YouTube video and the second episode to my podcast, that I would first start off with sharing how I incorporate self-care and well-being into my life as a coach, as an entrepreneur. And the reason why I believe that this is so important is because I know that being in this role comes with great influence. It comes with great power. Anyone that puts on a camera and holds a mic and speaks their opinion or speaks facts have a lot of influence, and we need to be very mindful of that. I want you to understand how I practice integrity when sharing with you information related to wealth and wellness, and why I feel like I'm the authority to do so, because I practice what I preach. I practice what I preach, okay? I am so aware of not wanting to be caught doing something that I told you not to do. Self-care is the foundation for overall well-being, and anything you really want to go after in your life, you will have much better success if you do it from a place of emotional resilience, if you do it from a place of confidence and satisfaction and with purpose. There are a lot of things outside of us that happen in our reality that are external of us that we can't necessarily control. But the one thing that you can control is how you respond, right? And how you respond is going to be determined around your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions at the time. And if you can master regulating your emotions and your mental processes and your environments, internal and external, you will see such a difference in how you show up for yourself, how you show up for the world and others, and how you become more fulfilled and how you become just more successful going after your goals and your desires and just anything that you want to aspire to. With that being said, welcome to the greenest tea, where we are going to be breaking all the myths, pulling up those receipts, and redefining money, wellness, and everything in between. Let's get into it. Today, I'm sharing with you what self-care has really looked like for me as a coach, as an entrepreneur, beyond the, aesthetic morning and night routines. Self-care goes much deeper than the surface aesthetically pleasing ideas or examples of what we see on social media. Those things are still nice, right? There obviously are still practices that help bring you calm and help to ground you and center you and make you feel relaxed. So it's important, but how can we access self-care without having to buy fancy things to have these fancy experiences, right? Because let's be real, candles, you gotta buy them, right? It's not free. Bubble baths, salt baths, that's something I love to indulge in once a week, is a really good like lavender bath salt soak. That still costs money. And even though it's not a lot of money, it really shouldn't be breaking the bank. It still costs something, right? So I want to balance this approach to self-care so that it is easily accessible and affordable to everyone, and in a way where you don't have to lean on external resources to feel internally whole. So I'm going to blend both the topics of wealth and wellness, because that is mainly what this podcast is about, and show you how I care for myself through both a wealth and wellness lens. And I'm going to start off with wellness because I think it's the easiest way to broach ourselves into the subject of being financially whole. And then we will end off with focusing a bit more on like how I care for my finances, and then weaving the two ideas or themes or topics together. And this is also sort of like I was journaling the other day and I call it a light pulse check. So it's also an opportunity for me to check in with myself and see how I've been doing. Of course, this episode is focusing on how I started to where I am today and the success that I've seen through self-care. But moving forward, it's going to be more of a little update here and there between episodes on like what's going on in my world, how am I caring for myself internally, and then how that's being reflected in my like external reality and like just like the great things that are popping up in my life, in my relationships and health and career, biz, spirituality, all that fun stuff. And so when we're focusing on self-care, when we're focusing on our overall well-being, the American Psychological Association ran a study and showed that individuals who experience frequent positive emotions live an average of 7 to 10 years longer than those who do not. So I don't know about you, but I'm trying to live as long as I can. And I know not everyone agrees with that. So people are like, I have a really nice cutoff at like 60. It's looking good, 50, 55, 60, and then like, God can take me. I'm more on the side of like, God, as long as I could live, let me live. I'm going to focus on living as long as I can, living the best life that I can, and sticking around for all the great memories, even the painful ones, because that's what just makes life so beautiful. And when it's time for me to go, it's time for me to go. And I can leave a legacy of all these videos and the podcasts and the work that I've done to pass on to other generations. Anyways, so that's lifespan, right? And relationships, I'm going to get into this in like another episode as to like why relationships are so important to like our overall success. And even when it comes to our money, having these support networks and structures. But individuals who practice mindfulness and emotional intelligence are 45% more likely to have satisfying relationships and personal success. Some of these statistics are kind of no-brainers. Like, obviously, if you're taking care of yourself, if you feel better about yourself, the people around you are going to be impacted, and vice versa. The people that you enter relationships into, if they are taking really good care of their overall health, it is going to have a positive impact on you. So, you know, there's like this saying that like one of the biggest decisions you could ever make is choosing your life partner. And there's been studies that have shown that relationships are like the single most important factor in overall satisfaction and well-being. So aside from money, aside from climbing up the corporate ladder, relationships always come first. As much as we try to deny it and suppress that and try to pretend like we don't care, we need each other. We are social beings. What kind of world would it be if you had to live in this world alone? That would be really scary if you think about it. Like, I already have fear of living on my own because who's going to kill the spider? Who's going to kill the spider for me? Career, work, and money. So people with higher emotional resilience achieve their personal goals 80% more often than those who struggle with emotional regulation. So like I said, when you are able to make decisions from a grounded and centered place, the better decisions you will make. And honestly, like, this is why I love working on mindset, because it's not just applicable to money. It's applicable to everything. It's applicable to how you see yourself, your relationship with God and a higher power, your relationship with others, your relationship in your career, in your work, all of it. So I don't think there's any downside to caring for yourself in a very holistic way and putting yourself first. Then we have spirituality. So individuals with a strong sense of purpose. If you know that you are on this earth, this planet, to be of service, whatever way that service is, and you don't even have to specifically know what it is, but if you believe that you were put on this earth for some reason, that it wasn't an accident why we're all here, you are going to have a better sense of being. You are going to have a better sense of why the work that you are doing, the people that you are impacting is so important. And individuals with a strong sense of purpose live on average 7 years longer and just report a higher satisfaction in their life. So even if you're not trying to live long, you're still just going to be happier overall versus someone who doesn't know what their purpose is and why they're here and like what brings meaning to their life. I'm so fortunate that all these things that we talk about, I have had the ability, when it comes to my relationships and my career and my work, because I care for myself, I have seen the direct results. For example, I just came out of a 2-year relationship. It ended, unfortunately, but it hands-on was one of the healthiest relationships I have ever been in because of the conscious work I have done on myself as a person, continuously stretching myself, continuously obsessed with personal growth, learning and fine-tuning and putting into practice. Putting into practice is a big one. What I am learning, slowing down so I can be more mindful and self-aware of the information that's coming at me. And in doing that, I'm more grounded so I can make better decisions. It's so much, right? But see that reflected in my relationships, even just like the quality of friends that I've had, that I continue to make and have are just amazing. Like God just puts great people along my path and I'm so blessed to have the people that I have in my life. So that is something that I am witnessing in real time since my last relationship and looking at even my astrology and some of these other esoteric charts to better understand myself, realizing that my Jupiter's the planet of good luck and fortune, is in my house of relationships. So it's never hard for me to make friends. It's never hard for me to find someone to be in a relationship with or to date. Anyway, moving on. That's going to be a whole other episode, but career, work, right? Like becoming an entrepreneur. When I started my business, I would say that is one of the moments in my life where my mindset was the best that it's ever been. Honestly, to the point where today I'm trying to get back to that mindset because I kind of slipped through the cracks a bit with all the pressures of building my business out in my first year. And I talk about that in my blog posts and past videos where I took a gap year, and you can go check out that video as well. And I'm very grateful that I was able to take a gap year. But that first year of my business, the way that I even started my business shows you the mindset that I had. I had so much confidence and belief in myself and where I was going. And I took calculated risks, right? So not stupid risks that weren't gonna pan out. There were risks where I knew okay, I have a plan B, C, D, E, all the way to Z if this doesn't work out. And what I did was I quit my 9-to-5 job. I was working with a business coach at the time, and I had a little bit of income coming in from the business. And then I had a call with this career coach, and it was a very informal call, and I was just talking to her about some of my fears. And she was like, you can find a client in 1 month. It's so doable. 30 days with the work ethic that you have and the fact that you've already started to kind of build a small clientele, it's possible. And then on top of that, I also read this book by Gabrielle Bernstein called The Universe Has Your Back. I swear to God, if you were in a period of transformation, that is the book to read. I read it again before moving out to Calgary last year because it is just one of those books that really gave me that unshakable faith. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I believe in my business. I know this is what I'm passionate about. I want to help empower women around building wealth, building that confidence, manifesting with more ease, and just really living a life that they love, creating a life that they love. And if I moved downtown Toronto for a year and I struggle to make ends meet, I could just move back home with my parents or something like that. That's worst case, or I could just find a part-time job downtown. It's not that big of a deal. So that was how I decided to just go all in my business. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I actually ended up making way more money in my business than what I made in the year before at my salaried 9-to-5 job, which I grew to resent. It was a job in alignment with my mission, but it just wasn't in the way that I wanted to serve. And so that also goes to show you that where I was in my life, I was taking care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally. My finances was really good. I had a savings that I could live off of. even if business wasn't doing good for a month, 2 months, 3 months, I had set the foundation for me to even be successful. I didn't just make all those decisions on a whim with no backup plans and with no belief in myself. It took a lot of work and preparation. So I'm going to start with the wellness lens. And actually, no. I want you to just pause. I want you to pause because this has been like 20 minutes of talking. Pause this video, pause the audio, however you're digesting this information. And think about the science that I dropped on you guys, those statistics. And like, how does it make you feel? If you want to even have a notebook and kind of just journal it out or just sit with yourself and think about it. But why do you think taking care of yourself in all aspects is crucial and important to your success? Is it because you want to live longer? Is it because you want to have satisfying relationships? Is it because you want to make more money? Because 90% of millionaires actually have high emotional intelligence, not intellectual. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you have to understand your emotions, your feelings. You have to regulate yourself in your nervous system. You can't operate out of uncomfortable fear. You got to be able to make snap decisions. You have to know how to network and connect with other people. There's a lot that goes into being an entrepreneur. When you look at the Elon Musks of the world, the Jeff Bezos, they know how to do all of this stuff. And I can't really speak on their behalf, but they look damn happy with the work that they're doing and the companies that they have created and the missions that they're fulfilling. I have other thoughts about them, but anyways, just reflect on how focusing on your well-being is going to impact certain areas of your life. And what are those areas? What's important to you? Why do you want to focus on adding more self-care into your life? Now, as we move into the wellness lens, I want to focus on inner wellness and what that entails. And everyone is going to break this down into different arenas or areas. I like to look at self-care in a very holistic manner. And like I said, it's way deeper than just the surface level aspect of what we think self-care is. So when I look at it on a deeper fundamental level, I think a good example that I can use is the example that indigenous people use. And they believe in this concept called the medicine wheel. And it is an understanding that there are 4 tenets to nature and how we can see nature in our own life. And one of the ways we can look at this circle, if you ever look at the medicine wheel, I'll have like an image somewhere left or right here. Usually the colors are like black, white, yellow, red. You've probably seen this medicine wheel or colors somewhere before. And some of the colors are meant to identify certain elements, even herbs. But for the purpose of today's episode and talking about wellness, I'm going to break it down into physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So for me, when I think of a physical, it is how am I moving my body, rest, and diet. Those are the 3 big things I look at in my life. And actually, my well-being journey started with diet. It started with diet. In university, I had a really bad acid reflux, and instead of wanting to go the route of taking medication to suppress the burn, I Googled and educated myself. I just did a lot of research on acid reflux. Why does it happen? And the number one reason is poor diet, like eating fat, greasy foods. And of course, I was in university. I'm living on a campus. So the university I went to, it doesn't help that they were known for some of the best food. Best culinary school or just best culinary experience in Canada. The food was hitting. I wasn't missing any meals. I did not want to miss any meals. There were way too many options. And so, I'm eating lots of meat, lots of dairy products, so high saturated fatty foods. And so I kind of did an experiment. I cut out meat for a week. Boom, like I noticed the symptoms were less. Then I challenged myself to cut out dairy, which is also beneficial because when I eat a lot of dairy, I break out. Not the only reason why I would break out, the stress hormones and stuff too. I'm breaking out right now, by the way. It's a whole mess. I don't want to get into it. But dairy could be inflammatory to your system. So the next thing I cut out was like cheese, which I know for people was a hard one. No milk. Wasn't that really big into cow's milk anyways. Or like just drinking it raw or whatever. But that as well eliminated. At that point, it just eliminated my acid reflux. So like the meat reduced it, and then taking out dairy just completely acid reflux gone. I'm focused on eating more plant-based meals, which is still my motto today because of that physical experience and transformation that I had. With that and getting better at my diet, obviously so much other benefits come from eating better. And if I tie it back to one thing that I am doing today, not only do I focus on eating good, but recently I've been focusing on certain supplements that aid in detoxing my body, getting rid of stuff that doesn't need to be there, that's holding me down energetically, physically, mentally. And also supplements that aid in overall focus, performance, mood. So this is something that I have recently been trying, Magic Mind, and these are mental performance shots that you take once or twice a day. It has a magic blend of 12 super ingredients, clinically proven to support a sharper mind, lower stress, and better energy. So lion's mane, ashwagandha, turmeric, matcha, vitamins B2, B3, B12, C, and D3. All of these ingredients and much more are found in this little green bottle. And one big thing that I love about Magic Mind is that I feel like I deal a lot with like brain fog. So drinking this over the past couple of days has really helped, especially if I have something important to do. Like I'm in school right now, so I have an assignment, or like I'm editing, clarifying something, recording this video, like anything that requires me to be sharp, I'm going to drink this right beforehand. So it's not about really drinking at the same time every day for me. It's more so drinking it when I'm about to engage in an activity that requires like maximum performance. There is just so many things that cause stress in our lives, and being an entrepreneur, one of the biggest things that you don't want happening to you is a reduction in performance and stress from all the areas of our life. And so far, I would say what sets them apart from some of the other wellness products that I've used is that it's third-party tested and sourced from the best suppliers around the world. They also donate 5 cents of every bottle to mental health charities in the US that deal with homelessness, which is a really big cause that I care about. I am promoting this because I feel like it has made such a big difference. Use my special code below in the description and you will get 48% off your first subscription for the next 10 days. Sleep has been a big one that I've recognized I, in the past, did not care about as much, especially when you're young, in your early 20s, and the lifestyle was just different. Like, I was focused on where me and the girls were going out next Saturday and not getting much sleep. Even with school, pulling all-nighters, procrastinating. And I feel like when you're younger, you don't really need as much sleep. You have so much more energy. But as I'm shifting into my 30s, my bed is my boo. It is my best friend. It is my everything. It gives life. Like, I cannot wait to hit that pillow at night. And not only just sleeping, but how many hours of sleep you're getting, right? So science has shown that people who get 7 to 9 hours of sleep are 60% more emotionally stable and report 30% higher life satisfaction. That's crazy, right? Because we are conditioned to believe in this hustle culture, burnout culture, high productivity culture that less sleep is better. The more things you can get done, the faster you'll get to where you want to go. And there used to be that like saying team no sleep, hashtag team no sleep, things like that. Like just celebrating the idea of not sleeping, because not sleeping is the equation of being successful for some reason. And the more you starve yourself of rest and giving your body the ability to reset, somehow the better you're going to perform, which is actually not true. And sleep doesn't cost anything. So that is one area of your life that you can start making a change with right now. Even if you have to sleep outside under a tree, like even someone that's homeless can choose to get their 7 to 9 hours of sleep if they want to, right? So that's one thing that you can start to prioritize in your life, is getting more sleep. And you will become 60% more emotionally stable, 60% just by doing that one thing. So profound. Do not sleep on sleep, pun intended. And then exercise. So exercise obviously is a big one. Moving your body helps improve confidence, mental clarity, motivation, and leads to better decision making. You just feel better. When you leave that gym, you feel so good. The serotonin, the dopamine, it just hits. And of course, there is a drag sometimes to go to the gym and find that motivation. And there are many things that you could do, habit stacking, creating rituals and routines to help you get into that mindset to want to go to the gym and exercise. But for most people, even just the hormones that are activated by you going to the gym is even enough. Like a feeling is what makes for some people going to the gym so addictive. It's like, I felt so good. I want to replicate that over and over again, every day, every other day. And it doesn't have to be going to a gym. So for myself, like I'm not a huge gym girl. Like I'm kind of like on and off. I have an on and off relationship with the gym over my life. I started going to the gym in university, and this exactly around the same time that I started changing my diet, right? Because it was like, well, I'm eating good. I also want to start moving my body in a way that's also going to make me feel good. And so I started doing yoga classes. That was my entryway into intentionally moving my body, alternating that with like actual gym sessions where it's like a mix of HIIT and cardio and getting into that. And I realized I love the treadmill, and I also love taking classes. So I realized that I'm much more motivated when I am partaking in some sort of class activity, whether it is a HIIT class or yoga or dance, whatever it is. Zumba was it back in the day. You know, I did a few of those classes, and I realized like I was much more willing to go to the gym when it was like in a community structure. Right now, I'm actually taking fitness classes at the studio in my neighborhood, and it's amazing. The environment is so uplifting, so supportive. They give you like little cold towels that are like dampened with some essential oil. It smells so good. Just like the energy in the room is like amazing. So I'm happy that I'm in this point in my life where I'm prioritizing that again. But in the past couple of years, I realized that I don't have to force myself to do like high impact intensity workouts. And so there's like this movement that's going on now around like exercises that are like slow and more like nurturing and mindful, but still give you the daily required 30 minutes of exercise per day and movement. And so some of those examples are going for walks. Depending on the season, yoga was something I was really into when I first started my wellness journey. It's not so much as important now, but I will have days where I'm like, I just need a really good stretch. Because of all the years of yoga that I've done, I instantly can get into my sun salutation, downward dog, downward dog, cat cow, warrior pose. I remember my poses, and I just do what feels good to me, my body, right? I don't even really need a class for that. So just move your body is what I'm trying to say. Just move it somehow, in some way. Lift up those arms, lift up those legs. Do a Harlem shake, I don't know, for 30 minutes, whatever it's going to take for you to move your body in a way that feels good. Dancing in the mirror is a big one. Like, I don't know if anyone else does this. My ex used to think it was weird, but who cares? And from as young as I've been, I love dancing. I just love putting on like a good playlist or just shuffling my music until I find a really good song and just dancing. And sometimes I'll start like 10 o'clock at night until like 3 in the morning. And if I'm in a space with other people that are sleeping, I'll put on my headphones and I'll dance in the same way. Nobody has to know. And it's just so cathartic. I still make sure to get my, my at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep. But yeah, sometimes I just have like these spurts of energy where I just want to like cathartically just dance and move my body in like an unshameful, unjudged way. Nobody's watching. I could just be myself and just do whatever. And it feels so good, right? So whether it's yoga, running, HIIT class, just move that stuck energy that is so often stagnant. Every day there are things that are happening to us. Like energy is constantly shifting. You could be in a good mood and then like the next minute in a bad mood, right? It's like just like this constant balancing of like the positive and negatives. And sometimes we get into a moment or a period of our life where like the energy is stuck in one area more than the other. So you feel more like you're in this dreary, heavy, just negative energy. And then sometimes you're in like this bright and blissful and easygoing, playful energy. And sometimes you just move your body to ease it out and just kind of bring yourself back to balance. And that's when we get into the importance of mindset, boundaries, intellectual nourishment. So the way that I care for myself mentally, and have been doing it for the past few years, is first, checking in with my thoughts. And there is an exercise you can do where you can, for like 10 minutes, just sit down with like a notepad and just write out all the thoughts that are coming to you, that are bubbling up to the surface. And after those 10 minutes, look at your thoughts and rate them. Is this a positive thought or a negative? And you'll be so interested to see that for most people who maybe haven't been on their journey as much as others, or haven't really been intentional about looking at their thoughts, they're probably more on the negative side. Maybe a lot of self-judgment, comparison, just being super hard on ourselves. And I think mindset, I know mindset is one of the most important things you can work on today. Looking at your thoughts, that can help to shift the trajectory of how you show up in your life, in your behaviors, in your habits. It starts with your thoughts, because your thoughts become your beliefs, and those beliefs are eventually going to become the actions that you take. And so if you want to change a belief set, it starts with a thought. How are you going to think about this in a more enlightened way, a more positive way than you were thinking about it before? This is a challenging one. I'm not even going to say it's super easy, because like I said, it requires awareness and mindfulness. And some of it too, the mental for me, is being mindful of what I'm consuming, information that's coming my way, and not even waiting for information to come my way, but seeking it. So listening to podcasts, reading books, right? That knowledge piece is important. Self-educating myself around like, how can I develop strong mental fortitude? How can I build resilience in all the things that life throws at me? And there are, psychological methods or treatments that even therapists use, or like, what would you call them, modalities, like cognitive behavioral therapy, where you're looking at unhelpful thinking patterns and how can we look at things in a more objective way. How do we know that you're assuming, or this is black and white thinking? You could categorize different types of thinking, and it's like a whole theory and thing and methodology that you can get into. But it is important, because the way that you think determines everything. And then the emotional piece. So like I said, being mindful. How do you become mindful? This is where like the emotional piece and regulation comes in. When you are mindful of your thoughts, you can now actually control your emotions. So sometimes they come in hand. So you can have an emotion happen first, like someone swears at you. And you're like, oh my God, F you, It depends how you think about that trigger in the moment. Because if you decide this person doesn't like me and they're showing aggression, and what I've been taught when it comes to aggression is to retaliate with even more aggression. So that becomes the belief, right, that you already have ingrained. Your thought is just reaffirming it in that moment. And so the action that you're going to take is what have you learned in the past when dealing with aggression. If you're a man, and because you live in this hyper-masculine world, you are going to respond to it in a aggressive way, in an external aggressive way. Whereas for women, we suppress it and we internalize it in other ways. So then we grow shame. And sometimes there are some women who are going to fight, but usually, as a generalization, women tend to internalize anger and men tend to externalize anger. Will Smith is a great example. Just walked up on stage boop, 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 with Chris, and that was that. You're probably more likely to see that behavior in Will Smith than Jada, right? She would have packaged that, taken it home, felt a lot of shame and embarrassment, and held that anger inside. But regardless, those are still two different actions, but they're actions nevertheless based on that initial thought and then the belief and what happens after that. And then you have the outcome from the action that you've taken. Being mindful and being able to regulate your emotions would have allowed, for example, let's continue to use Will Smith, in that moment to realize, you know what, if I go up on a world stage and slap Chris Rock in front of all these white people, I'm going to lose job opportunities. I am going to lose a certain amount of influence and respect. There are biological reasons, social reasons, so many reasons why he took that action. But if we simplify it, it comes down to belief sets. And if you simplify it even more, it was that thought that he had in that moment and the emotion attached to it. So much of what we do is subconscious and conscious. We are running on autopilot most of the time. Like 95% of our thoughts are conscious. The logical, the reasoning, like the critical thinking, that's only 5% of what we do on a daily basis. Those are executive functions and things that we're doing like in the moment. Like, am I going to have coffee? Do I have time to make coffee? No. Okay, I'm going to do like that is the 5% of your brain that you're using. And it seems like a lot, but to know that there's 95% of other things that your brain has to work with, just be mindful of that. Like, there are so many things that you were doing that you don't even realize you were doing by the time that you do it. And then you look back at hindsight, you're like, okay, that's probably why I did it. Or like, I didn't even realize in the moment, like I just got caught up in like, your conscious, rational part of your brain didn't get a chance to be aware of what was happening and how you should respond. This is why mindfulness is so important. It helps to even reduce stress by 40% and boost focus by 16%. And when I say mindfulness, it's really just being in the present moment. So not thinking of the past, not thinking of the future, being really grounded in what you are doing. And I don't think there's anyone who's like, I'm 99% using my conscious brain. Like, I think that's probably impossible. But what we can do is like, we're not aiming for perfection here. We are aiming for improvement. I truly believe the more work you do on yourself, that number starts to decline. And it could just be 1% better every day, and you already win at life, in my eyes, at this point. You are 1% better today than you were yesterday. That's amazing, right? And of course, the spiritual, so the practices that are going to keep you grounded and aligned, not only with self, but with a higher power. And for me, some of the practices that I involve myself in that also encapsulate the emotional and the mental is like breath work and journaling, meditation, talking to a friend, venting, going to therapy. The biggest thing for me is meditation and praying. Sitting with myself, my thoughts, talking to God, like not necessarily having to like out loud talk, but just showing gratitude. It's not about ranting or asking favors from the universe. Sometimes it's just like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this meal that I have in front of me. Thank you for this connection that I just came across. Thank you for the little bits of money that just came my way. Thank you for this job that I landed. I've been working so hard. It's just a job that I never would have dreamed of having. Thank you for the smallest things, for the biggest things. Gratitude is, if you don't want to, or if you feel like there's like a bigger barrier to entry to getting into like meditation and like things like that, that maybe you have some resistance to, start with gratitude. That's literally one thing that everyone, no matter what religion you come from, can do. Even an atheist can practice gratitude. Like, just gratitude for life, for just being here and the moments that you get to witness. Just thank you. Thank you to whomever it is. Or whatever it is. Thank you. So, wrapping up the wellness lens, I want you to take inventory, reflect on this wellness section. How are you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually caring for yourself now? Or how do you want to care for yourself in the near future? What do you think is going to be required? What are easy things? What are things you can do like tomorrow, today? Small little habits to help you in each of these areas. So pause. You reflect. We're moving into the wealth lens now. Wealth is really important because, like I mentioned in the intro episode, it is the driving force for everything we do. The type of jobs you go after because of how much money it's going to be able to give. And with that money, we have so many options with what we can do with our lives. Whether accessing certain jobs to make an income, all the way to knowing how to soundly, effectively manage the money that's also coming in. And then not only managing it, but how you choose to spend it. And so those three factors are going to determine your financial well-being. And they're not always the easiest thing to come by because we live in very oppressive structures where the way that even capitalism is supposed to work isn't working the way that it's supposed to, and it's become corrupt. And where wealth is supposed to be redistributed, where we care for one another, and everyone has the same financial opportunities. There's like that level of equity that's supposed to be there, isn't there. And so I'm not overlooking the barriers, right? Like as a woman of color, as a Black woman, lots of financial barriers there, right? I didn't choose to be sexually attracted to certain sexes, same sex, opposite sex. People who identify and be part of those communities are at a disadvantage. So we need to look at that when we're talking about wealth and how accessible it is. Some people have a better starting point. Some people's start line is a little bit closer to the finish line. So it's not a real race. It's not an equal race. It's not a race built on equity, which is the issue. If we were all starting from the same starting point, then okay, it's fair game. But majority of people aren't. So we need to be aware of like the privileges in society that some people are have. Like even me as a Black woman, I have maybe certain privileges when it comes to my access to wealth because of the strides that I've made in my finances, right? Because of the people I'm connected to. So we all have to look at the privileges that we have. And I think it's a responsibility as social beings to care for each other and to be mindful of these privileges. And you have an upper hand, use that upper hand to do good, right? So what I'm really trying to say here is when we're looking at the wealth lens, we're not just looking at numbers. We're looking at the value in those numbers, access to those numbers, the management of those numbers, and how it affects us individually as well as a whole. And for me, if I were to like create my own little medicine wheel for money around this, I would break it down to knowledge, emotional regulation. So you see the wellness aspect seeping into this, intersecting into this support, and strategy. People with high financial literacy accumulate 2.5 times more wealth than those with lower financial knowledge. Double, just by educating yourself. And so what I think knowledge is, I think for me, and how it looks like for most people and how it should look like, is that you don't wait for the information to come to you. So we know that growing up in this kind of modern day society, formal institutions in which we learn from don't teach us soft skills. They teach us most of like the hard scientific understandings of like our objective reality and the world and our body and systems, but they don't teach us life skills like how to budget or how to maintain and find healthy relationships. The things that actually matter. Like when I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that studies have shown that the single most defining factor when it comes to your life satisfaction and overall happiness is relationships and social connections. It's crazy that schools don't teach us this. At the same time, though, we shouldn't be relying on public institutions to teach us this, and our kids and our communities. We need to self-actualize and activate this autonomy that is already there in seeking out the information for ourselves. You can go to the public library still using public systems to fill in those gaps, right? So you can go to a public library to teach you the things that the public school is not teaching you, ironically. And even in schools, there are libraries too that you can go to access information, right? The thing is that we are waiting on people to teach us. But I think when you get to a certain age, like if you didn't obviously have mentors or that example within your family to pass on that knowledge and wisdom, if you weren't privileged enough to have that, as an adult, it gets passed on to you. Honestly, the responsibility is on you. If you are a grown woman out here paying her bills, making her way through life, you can seek out the information. There are so many free ways to do it. We live in the information age, and technology has made it so easy for us to access valuable, scientifically proven, research-packed information. Google, now we have ChatGPT, like that just made it 10 times easier for you to ask information, to ask questions. Literally, ChatGPT can, I shouldn't even be saying this really, but ChatGPT can be your coach. I use ChatGPT every single day for like everything, like as my therapist, and also to come up with strategies for my business and just managing finances, making life decisions. Literally, you can use it for everything. To plan a trip, like I'm obsessed with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is free. Up until now, it's still free. And I hope they keep it that way. Books, podcasts, listening to podcasts like this, like you are learning something new just by tuning into this, hopefully. Education is big. Like I said, not even when it just comes to wealth. This can be applicable to the wellness section, the wellness lens. And I did bring up knowledge already, right? So I'm bringing it up again because it's that important. When it specifically comes to your money, we need to be looking at examples of like how people have built success in their careers, in their business, and with money. One really cool stat that surprised me was that 80% of millionaires are self-made. In this study, self-made means they did not inherit their wealth. So their parents weren't millionaires. It's not like a Trump situation or the Kardashians. None of that. Right? Any of these celebrity kids, like there's no nepotism involved. Like these are people starting from like where you and me are starting from, that made it to the top. The book that I read that changed the trajectory for me when it came to my money was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's not even like a personal finance book in the sense that like it breaks down like how to budget and like the nitty-gritty details. It's more like high-level thinking around like what type of person do you want to be? Do you want to be my healthy or not healthy, my wealthy dad? Or do you want to move and operate like my poor dad? And here are the differences in how they showed up in behavior, in mindset, and what they wanted out of life. That was the book that made me realize, like, I need to be an entrepreneur. Yes. Will it come with more challenges, maybe more in the beginning? Yeah, but in the end, when I look at all the successful people in the world, they're all entrepreneurs. No one working a 9 to 5 is going to make as much money as Lady Gaga or Beyonce or Kendrick Lamar or Elon Musk. You're not going to get that kind of money working a 9 to 5. So it's not the money that drives me, but it just goes to show you, like, the money that they have brings much comfort and security and much more options, right? The world is their oyster. And what's equally as important is that a lot of entrepreneurs are actually passionate about what they're doing. Like, a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you, even if I wasn't making any money, I would still do this. And that's a very stark difference between people that are working 9 to 5s, who are doing it just for the money because, like, I just need a job, I need to get by, but it's not lighting them up. So imagine doing something that lights you up, that makes you unlimited amounts of money. That is why I want to be an entrepreneur. And I know that whatever's out there has to be created for me. Like, I don't think there's one job that's like, I made this job just for Morgan. And I always tell people, like, if you struggle with figuring out, especially if you're, like, really young and, like, maybe you're just, like, finishing high school and you're going through a gap year, or you're just going through, like, a career pivot and you're like, I don't feel satisfied with what I'm doing. I don't really know what I want to do. I don't know what I'm meant to do. Like, maybe you're meant to create it. And that sounds really scary and, like, annoying, but, like, it's the most liberating thing ever, because not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. So if you realize that you have to create something in order to find fulfillment, you're probably going to be a really good entrepreneur. And that book is what set that path for me. And, like, I wouldn't have had the knowledge, or I wouldn't have had that perspective and would have thought that way if it wasn't for the ideas that were brought forth in that book. And yes, I could have conversations with friends about, like, some of the things he was talking about, but, like, my friends don't have that experience. My family doesn't have that journey that he had. So, like, to hear it from him, and, like, without meeting Robert Kiyosaki in real life ever, but him having been a mentor, like, people think mentors have to be people you know in your real life. Like, it could be an author, it could be me, it could be, like, just anyone that plants a new seed. People can be mentors in negative ways too. You have negative influences all around you. So you got to choose what type of mentor you want and intentionally accept what energy you decide to take information from. But the books, the podcasts I've listened to over the years, just the general research, like I said, just going online and just asking questions, like, that is how I've gotten to where I am today. And, like, I'm not even saying it in a way where, like, I've done it all, I'm good, like, I'm the best in the world at, like, what I'm preaching, and you should get like me. Like, there are people doing better than me still. Like, I'm, like, working towards, I don't even want to compare myself to other people, but there's always going to be someone doing better than you. Of course, there's someone right now that has a lot more money than me, but I do take pride in where I am based on where I'm coming from. It is a huge difference. And the support I've had along the way, because I don't like the idea of being self-made. I think it takes community, family, friends, mentors, all of it combined. And I've been so blessed when it comes to connections. Like I said earlier, like, relationship is something that, like, is just, I'm so blessed with. And a lot of the success I had in my business, especially my first year, is because of relationships. Being in the right communities, being fortunate to have conversations on a public virtual stage, such as a podcast, or being featured in someone's blog, that just sort of created this domino effect of other people discovering me and then creating relationships with them, and it just continues. There's this type of marketing called relationship marketing. If you think about, like, referrals, like, that's kind of what I think about. It's like using people in your circles to help grow your brand, to help people discover who you are through using other people's audiences, through building connections with other people that are willing to put you out there, that are willing to share your work and your wisdom. And so that goes to show you, like, no one's really self-made. Like, it really does take community. And I've been so blessed to have those relationships that have set me on that path to get me to where I am. And then, like I said, strategy, a lot of that has just been through the knowledge that I've acquired and also just learning from other people and seeing how they go about things. And then just learning for myself. Sometimes it's just trial and error. Like, okay, I've done this, that hasn't necessarily worked. Okay, let me try budgeting in this way. Let me try diversifying my portfolio, putting more money in this kind of industry and seeing what happens with like, time with current worldly themes. Like when I first started investing in weed stocks. Not just weed stocks, like I had money in ETFs and other financial products I don't want to confuse you with. But I saw where the market was going. I saw that like marijuana was about to be legalized in Canada, and I knew it would be like a really big industry, especially in the beginning. Like here would be a lot of hype, and I can monetize off of that hype. I knew it wasn't going to be something that, it could be long term, but like in the beginning, I knew it was more of like a short term investment and like a fun kind of investment to get my hands on and like test the waters with. And I was able to double my investments from $5,000 to $10,000. And I actually have a YouTube video on this as well, just sharing like that story and how it came to be. And so sometimes it's just trying different things to see what works. And when a strategy works, you keep up with it, right? If something isn't broken, don't try fixing it. Like, ride it till the wheels fall off. Continue doing it until it no longer works. That's kind of just been my philosophy and like just life. Make a plan. Make a backup plan, to the backup plan, try different things, because especially even being an entrepreneur, there are so many marketing strategies out there. Like, I think I was talking to my friend about this. Sometimes it's so overwhelming because it's like, there are 100 ways to market my product right now. Do I do a webinar? Do I just connect with someone and try to get on their podcast? Do I go on social media and create a viral reel? Like, there are so many ways. Which one are you going to choose? You also kind of have to figure out like what is like alignment to you? What is going to make you feel good as you're building out your business? And that was something I had to learn the second time around running my business, instead of doing it the way I was doing it the first time around before taking my gap year. Because when I first started my business, I was copying and pasting. I was doing all the strategies that everyone was telling me, and I wasn't checking in with myself to be like, Morgan, is this the way that you want to show up? And now doing it the second time around, I am so much more intentional about how I show up, the structures I'm creating so that I can show up without burning out and just avoiding resenting my business. And I've come to a beautiful place. And although it's been a slow burn, it's been a slow growth, I really don't care because I feel so much better doing it this way. With patience and time, God will bless me. Trying to shape up my finances has also helped me improve my overall well-being, because the moment I started getting my money right, the moment I started paying off my debts and building up my credit score and like investing and seeing my 5,000 turn to 10,000 within a day, oh my gosh, the improvement in like just life satisfaction, showing myself it's possible. Morgan, you can do anything you put your mind to. Look at what you did. And I honestly don't give myself enough credit, and I don't think any of us give ourselves enough credit. Like, you did what so many people still aren't able to do and aren't doing. And even though there are people who aren't already doing what you're doing, there are still just as much people who aren't doing it. So like, what made you be the person to do it, right? And I think that just is like incredibly satisfying. It gives me motivation because it's like, well, you've been here at this one point, and if you end up going back there, you can overcome it. You have the tool belt now. You have the knowledge, you have the wisdom, you have the support systems, you have the tools. You can do it. So I also want to stress the second tenet of the wealth lens, or the second cornerstone, and it's going to be emotional regulation. So I'm not going to talk too much about this because I literally just talked about it when it comes to the wellness lens. And you can see like literally everything just sounds repetitive because they both coexist. And I think I'm doing it in this way to show you just how important wellness is when it comes to your money. Like, you can't look at it separately. And in doing it this way, I hope you're realizing like, wow, like, yeah, the same ways that I would go about seeking change in other areas of my life have to be done the same way when it comes to my money. So emotional regulation, when you are caring for yourself, when you are even just getting into a habit, a routine of looking at your money, over time, you will build that emotional resilience. You won't be scared to look at your finances. Even after looking at it, you won't get anxious. If you can get to a place where you're like, you know what, I'm looking at my money and it is what it is. Yes, I feel uncomfortable with these numbers. Maybe I feel really good about these numbers. Okay, how can I, with the information that's come my way, with the knowledge that I have, how can I make a more informed decision? Talking about money, having regular conversations about money with family, friends, with trusted mentors and people that you just trust. Talking to money itself, journaling, writing a letter to money. That's a really big activity that I love to do with my clients when we work privately. Write a letter to money, address it, speak to it directly, just like how you speak to a friend or God. Talk to it. Let out those stuck, chaotic, confused emotions that you have regarding your money. Get real with it. Because when you, especially when you write, when you journal, there's something so cathartic about seeing it out on paper in front of you. It's like you're naming it. And when you name something that has so much negative power, you kind of disarm. It's like you don't have as much power over me because like I'm actually like now facing you. Like I'm looking at you eye to eye. And I'm realizing like I don't need to be that scared of you. Like you're just a feeling that comes and goes. And although I might feel about you in this particular way now, I don't have to feel about you in this particular way later. Emotional regulation, people. And that kind of leads into support because sometimes we can't do it all on our own. Sometimes you know what you have to do, you have the information, but it's so hard to apply it. And that's where the support piece comes in. 76% of people believe having a mentor is crucial to success, yet only 37% actually have one. And another stat that like really blows me away, and I don't know if I feel good about it or not, but 85% of jobs are filled through networking, not traditional applications. Most people get jobs based on who they know, not by writing a flipping resume, which really pisses me off because do you know how much hours I've spent writing resumes and cover letters to get a job? I'm realizing that like I technically have a 50% chance. So you have much better chance of writing that resume and cover letter with someone that you've even at least had a coffee date with or through a referral. Once again, social connections, relationships. Number one defining factor. This is even showing you how it affects your money, knowing the right people, right? So support is going to be really important. The fact that most people want a mentor but don't have one, I don't know if that's a reason of just like not feeling confident enough to go out and ask for help. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Like most people have that like pride and that ego of like not wanting to ask for help because it makes you look weak. That's the same stigma that a lot of people have when they look at therapy. It's like, oh, I gotta sit down and talk to someone professional about myself and not being able to do that on my own, right? There's like always this expectation in this independent society that we have to do everything on our own. That is the difference between Western society and Eastern societies, where there's more for interdependent focus of like community and like not just doing something for myself, but how is it going to impact other people? In an individualistic society, it's a lot more focused on me, focusing on me. I think both have pros and cons. And I think, like I said, once again, it's about finding that golden mean. It's about reaching that like healthy balance. And it doesn't mean you're going to be equally balanced all the time. Of course not. But like learning how to bring yourself back to the center. Okay, maybe you're in a period of your life right now where you're noticing you're people pleasing too much. Okay, so that can be associated with being more interdependent. We need to move and shift ourselves back to, or not back to, but shift ourselves to the side of individualism and maybe focusing more on yourselves and your own needs and setting boundaries, right? So it's a little bit of both worlds, not just one or the other. Right now, we're living in a time where we're teaching people to incorporate either extreme. And it's like, it's not about extreme ever. It's actually living in the gray, which we're kind of taught not to live in, right? Like sometimes it's important to have clarity and like to see things black or white, but also important to be able to see the gray too, and to live in that gray and embody that gray when necessary. We want to embody and embrace all of the shades. I hope I don't get kicked out because I'm upstairs in this meeting room in my condo building past 11 o'clock and I'm not really supposed to be up here. So if this background shifts and changes, I'm going to be back in my bedroom. I'm just giving you a heads up because when that elevator door opens, your girl's in trouble. True. So the last cornerstone that I want to touch on is strategy. With everything that you know, how are you putting it into practice? These are going to be the tools, these are the strategies that you have at your disposal. Do you have a budget sheet? Do you have access to a budget sheet? Do you know if it's an investment platform that you can start trading with? Are you a part of forums or even just community groups, right? Like to find community so that you can have that support. Where can you find that? Where are the spaces so that you can get access to those tools and resources? And sometimes they all go hand in hand, right? A book is a tool or a resource that aids in knowledge, that aids in another cornerstone. So like, I just love talking about things in such a holistic way because it's just like, I don't even have to try. I don't have to try here. Like everything encompasses each other at some point. I love it. So strategy, like how are you even making a plan, right? You have all this information in front of you, but how are you going to get from A to B using the tools and the resources and the knowledge and the support and the emotional regulation that you now have? What is the plan? From step 1 to 5 to 10 to 100, what is it going to look like? Having kind of like an outline or a framework or a timeline. This is where we get into goal setting and what that looks like. But on a higher level, having an intention and the end goal of that intention is really important. Like you don't want to just go into something just for the sake of doing it, just because everyone else is doing it or you think this is how you're supposed to do it. Why are you doing it? Why are you budgeting? Why is it important to you? Why do you want to invest? Why is that important to you? Like really asking yourself that to help you better define your strategy. Because if you're just doing it because this is just like a copy and paste, it actually might do you a disservice, right? Even everything that I'm sharing with you now, everything that I did in my own life to get you to where I am today, it might not work for you. And that is why I love to give examples. Like when I was talking about physical exercise, I mentioned to you, yoga is not really my jam right now, but it could be your jam. It could be that thing that grounds you. It could be that thing that you do religiously every single day. And that is the one thing you look forward to amidst all the chaos that's going on in your life. So it's not about a copy and paste. And some of these things, you might do one before the other. You might do them all at the same time. Like I said, when I first started my wellness journey, everything was kind of happening at the same time. I pinpointed the diet, but with the diet came the exercise. And like around that same time, I started journaling, I started reflecting more, I started being more mindful because then I was also introduced to meditation. And then like everything kind of just starts to weave itself together. If I can even, actually, it might not even be diet. I mean, if I can pinpoint what started my wellness journey, it was going through a really bad breakup. And even what spurred on that breakup was just me realizing I wanted better. That's a spiritual download right there. You wanting better for yourself in your life? Excuse me? You're envisioning a better version of yourself? That's a very spiritual experience. I might not have known how exactly I was going to get there, but I knew I had to start doing things differently. And an aspect of self-care and self-love for me was like this acid reflux. Like if I want to be a better individual, like let's tackle the acid reflux. That's going to be a part of me starting the self-love and wellness journey, right? So it like so many factors come into play at the same time. You don't have to pinpoint exactly what it is or like think you have to just start with one thing. Like just do it. You can do it. Like you're doing it right now by even watching this video. So to kind of wrap everything up, I hope this helps you to understand why wealth and wellness is so important, why this is the foundation for what's going to be the rest of this podcast. After showing you all like practical examples and just weaving in my own personal story. So all in all, when it comes to our wealth and well-being, it takes two to tango. And the problem that we have as a society, and why I decided to be a holistic wealth coach, is that we have an issue with focusing purely on the practical, especially when it comes to finances, like how-tos, the advice. But we don't focus on some of the theoretical things in understanding mindset and self-care and wellness and spirituality and even the science and understanding nervous system regulation. Even some of the practical aspects of wellness we also don't understand or try to incorporate. So I think it's like a healthy balance of both practical, both theoretical, combining the two in both areas to see the best outcome and results. When it comes to our money, when it comes to how we feel, in all the other areas, even outside of our money. And in working in one area, you're going to see your finances positively impacted. And working on your finances, it is, like I said, going to open up the doors for everything else. Without money, with money, and that's even the best of both worlds, because you realize you don't have to have access to money all the time to be healthy. But if you do have access to money, you can be healthier. Money opens up those doors. And that is why when I talk about wellness, I love to speak on it from the lens of money. Because if you do not know how to be resourceful, doesn't mean you can't be well and can't be happy. But I want you to unlock all options. I want you to have that opportunity in front of you. I want you to be healthier. I want you to have more than just enough. I want you to strive for the best, even though perfection isn't necessarily real and may not be attainable. As long as you're getting 1% better. If you could become 1% better internally so that your pockets reflect that, and you could become 1% better financially, why not? Why not teach people how to be well in the area that I'm most confident in and the area that gives people headaches? Living in a world and a system where, like, even if it's not capitalism, even outside of capitalism, like, if there's any other systems, resources and how we trade between each other and how we trade as countries on a global scale is always going to be there. The concept of what money is and what it looks like changes over time, but that aspect of being resourceful, of having something, material, possessions and wealth and comforts, is always going to be there. It's always going to be important. Having a roof over your head, having food on the table. You can go out there and get those things yourself if you want to, be off grid and be self-sustainable. You could do that too. But how do you do that? How do you learn those skills in order to do that, right? So being resourceful looks so different in so many different ways, but it can all be lumped under this idea of wealth. How do you sustain yourself? Are you sustaining it through currency? Are you sustaining it through being self-sufficient? Like, there's so many different ways to be resourceful. We can determine that for ourselves. And this is going to be in future episodes, but I just really want you to understand that the problem with purely practical financial advice is that we're not incorporating wellness. We're not incorporating some of the other things that create quality, fulfilling, satisfactory lives outside of just what is in your bank account. And I just want, as we wrap up, to just mention that, these are all practices that work for me. I think I said this before a while ago, but I really want to drive home that like self-care isn't one size fits all. What's worked for me might not work for you. Some things might work. You just gotta try things. It's like throwing spaghetti at the bow. What's the saying? Throwing spaghetti at the wall and see like what sticks. Testing it out. Like this whole life is just like a whole test. It is a test. Some people get it more than others. Some people find a way for it to work for them more than others. And like I think that's just part of what life is, figuring it out as we go. Figure out how to be the best version of ourselves. Figure out how to fulfill our life's mission, our purpose, to find meaning. Because this life here on earth is temporary. Where are you going after this? How does what you do here on earth impact where you're going next? No one necessarily really has the answer to it. We're still trying to figure that out. We're figuring out life here and what life after here is going to be. That's what really makes all the difference. I think that's what really can make or break you. Knowing that all of this is for a reason, working on becoming the wellest version, if that's even a word, the wellest version of yourself through all areas of your life is going to give you much more benefits than take. Reflecting wellness looks like for you. Who are you today? Who were you yesterday? Who do you want to be tomorrow? And like, how can you incorporate wealth and wellness to get there? How can you take better care of your finances, the way that you approach your relationship with money? And also, how can you just learn to better approach your relationship with self, your mental, emotional well-being, your physical? How are you caring for yourself to improve overall life satisfaction? That's really what it is. My YouTube tagline is create the life you love. You can have love and money at the same time. You can have the amazing career and build a family and have amazing friendships at the same time. We can do it all at the same time. And as you do it, I think the onus is on you, and we have a responsibility as a people, as a human race, to uplift and empower one another. Because we can go farther together as a society than trying to do it all alone and trying to divide and conquer and create fear amongst each other. Instead, we can show up with love and encouragement and embrace different ideologies and embrace different perspectives and worldviews on how to get to essentially the same place everyone is trying to get to: happiness. So let's be mindful of that as we move forward today, and on all levels, being intentional and being mindful of how we care for ourselves. I really appreciate your level of attention and engagement and just presence. And I hope you stay tuned and forward to the next video, where we will be talking more wealth, more wellness, and everything in between, because this is the greatest tea. Wealth is more than money, and wellness is more than self-care. So keep pouring into yourself and the world around you. And if you love this episode, please share it. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and let's keep redefining what well-being really means. One cup of green tea at a time.